welcome to the Audio Book Podcast. This is the Audiobook Joe podcast, and today we're going to be talking about a core concept that I have learned from audiobooks. Now, it's helped me in my life, and I think it could help you as well. We're going to be talking about Seven Habits of Highly Effective People. We're going to be talking about a couple of other books. What are we talking about? The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle. We're also going to be talking about how we can, through listening to audiobooks, become more aware of how other people see us. There's a book that we're going to mention as well called Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl, which is just a really, really good book. So, thank you for joining us today. And if you've got any comments, let me know. So, what I wanted to just kick off with is the difference between being responsible and response able. So, that word can have several different meanings, and I never knew this before I started listening to audiobooks. So, I'll tell you about how this started, and then we'll go into how it can manifest in your personal development journey. So, the difference between responsibility and being response able, I find, is that being responsible can sometimes have a negative meaning, like say, oh, he's responsible, it's his fault. It's kind of like a blame word. So that can be the case. Now, the way that this word changes the meaning with being response able is from Seven Habits of Highly Effective People. So it's from the idea that you have the power to decide how you respond to things. And when you say other people make you feel a certain way, I only did this because someone did this or someone did that, you're giving away your power, really. And you're saying somebody else, is responsible for your life. Now, I know that's not the case because, people aren't responsible for what we do. We're responsible for what we do. So, what we're going to be talking about for the first part of this podcast is Stephen Covey's definition is not a reactive, it's proactive. So, reactive would be I did this because they did that. I am not responsible for this because another person did something else. I'm not to blame. Now, that's okay, and you can do that. But when you do that, it takes away some of your power. You're essentially saying, I am not responsible for everything that happens. Other people are responsible. And it might be for things in your life. So imagine if you put it in context of having like an argument with a family member. You say, well, why did you shout back? You say, well, because they did this and because they did that. Now that's the reactive version of being responsible. You say, I'm not responsible, they did this, the reason I shouted is because they did this and they did that. So what the proactive version is to say, actually, I am responsible for all my actions and all my behaviors. The reason that I said this is because I decided to. Um, and that's a big change because it makes you more powerful. And it means that if you act in a certain way, nobody forced you to do that. No one made you do that. It's actually your responsibility, within your control. So one of the bits that really helped me here was to say something along the lines of, I don't want to have arguments with family or friends or people that I care about. So if I found myself having an argument with a family member or a friend, realizing that actually you cannot dance the tango alone. It takes two people to do that dance. Same with arguments. if you remove, if you are response able and you're able to control how you show up and how you turn up in life, then realizing that you can't have an argument if you're not going to participate, and simply removing your part. When I found that out about myself, I was like, well, okay, I'll just remove my part of the argument. So I used to have a lot of arguments with people I care about, family, moving back home, that kind of stuff, where I would shout, and the reason that I said I would shout is because they were shouting. So it's just like a reinforcing negative cycle until the point where we're having an argument about having an argument. So then I realised if I remove my piece of this completely, what happens? And what happens is you kill that argument stone dead. So someone would shout at you and you'd say, okay. It's pretty much done within 2 minutes. And sometimes I find that the thing itself is not what harms you. It's your reaction to the thing itself. So by you having this overblown reaction, you say more things. You create a worse situation than if you would have just agreed and moved on. So that's one of the things that I've picked up from this. 7 Habits of Highly Effective People is a really, really good book. But not because it's just a good book. It's good because it gives you tools that you can use to apply to your life. So, imagine someone cuts you off in traffic. Someone is, rude to you or something like that. You decide how you respond. Another thing that I changed was I used to get annoyed when I was driving, because I would think, oh, somebody is either driving too slow and I want to get past them, or they're just driving, we're too close to each other. And then I realized the same thing with arguments. I'm 50% of this, so why don't I just ease off, don't drive so fast, and by doing that I remove pretty much completely my aggression, which is so funny. So thinking that you can actually control this. Now, I'm going to go into some of these books in a second, but I was in a sales situation where I thought somebody was helping me, and it turns out they were, but they were also helping, themselves. And for a while, it really annoyed me because the end result was I didn't get as much commission as I should have got. And that annoyed me for a while until, and the way that it annoys you, you say that passive way, it annoys me. That's giving away my power, saying I have no control. This thing just annoys me. Until I realized, actually, that's not being responsible. So how would I make it responsible? And it's by realizing that, well, if I allowed somebody to come in and take over, and they did some of the work, then they do deserve what they got, and I deserve what I got. So it's really about saying, whoa, whoa, whoa. So it's not just that they did this and they did that, and that's bad, and that annoys me. It's about saying, actually, what did I do to, bring this about? Or what did I not do? What did I not say? The aim of the game with this responsibility thing is, it's not blame. You want to take responsibility because it's your life and you are powerful. You are in control. It's not a blame thing. It's not like, oh, I'm responsible. It's a power thing. It's to say, actually, you are big enough and man enough or girl enough to take full responsibility, even if you don't fully think it's your fault. You know what I mean? Take that responsibility, be the bigger person, and by doing that, you're going to be in control of your life. Your life is nothing to do with this person. That's the whole reason that this responsibility thing is such a big piece. And this is why I wanted to go over it again. It's because it's nothing to do with them. It's nothing to do with whoever you're in an argument with, whoever you're struggling with at the moment. It's all about you. You take responsibility. So, like, you could have an argument, and then you're blaming them, they're blaming you. And I've done this. You go in and you say, apologize. Say, look, this was completely my fault. Or don't say fault, because that's the kind of blaming words. You just say, look, I'm sorry this happened. I'm completely responsible. And they interpret that as you are to blame. But what you interpret that as is you are the bigger person. You are the guy, the girl that's just going to forget about this pointless situation because it doesn't matter to you. Take responsibility. Be the damn guy. You know, don't make somebody else the guy. Say, oh, actually, they're responsible. No, you take it. And that is when it's really powerful. And you'll be so surprised. Because when other people hear you taking full responsibility, and you can say, I take full responsibility for what happened, they then take some responsibility. It's weird. It's like if you say it's your fault, then they say it's my fault, and you go back and forwards, and you just create anger, and you're justifying why they're in the wrong, they're justifying why you're in the wrong, and you get nowhere fast. But when you man up, that's not a bad word. When you just take full responsibility, when you man up, and you say, "Look, I'm fully responsible for this." Even if you think in the back of your mind somewhere they could have done something, it doesn't matter. You're taking full responsibility. By you doing that, it'll really surprise you how it almost shocks other people sometimes into saying, no, it's my fault. And if it doesn't, you're essentially saying, I want to move on. I'm going to take full responsibility for this situation happening, and we are done with this situation. Or do you want to live with it in your life for years? It's a no-brainer when you think about it like that. So that's the bit that I really wanted to get across. And if you've got any situations where you're currently struggling with blaming people and not taking responsibility, drop a comment, send me a message, because I've had to talk through these things with people that I trust and respect to help me get there. The audiobook might help you, friends might help you. It's a step-by-step kind of a thing. So, another book that is phenomenal is called Nonviolent Communication by Marshall Rosenberg. Now, this talks about the responsibility for your feelings and how you express them. So instead of saying, you made me feel this way, blah, 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 the difference between that book and how you express your feelings is, instead of saying, you made me XYZ, you say something like, I feel this way because I'm interpreting what you said as disrespectful, aggressive. I don't like it when you say that because I feel like you're telling me what I do is not good enough. When see, it's really hard. You've got to rewire your brain. So it's non-violent communication, and the whole premise of that book is that we've only been taught to speak in violent ways. I don't like you because this. Where it's, when you say that, it makes me feel like you don't appreciate me, and that makes me not want to hang out with you. And then you can then hear from them what they're actually thinking. So that's a really good book, and that's probably a book that I'm going to listen to again. I'll do another review on it. Then there's a book called Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. So this is, and responsibility is a theme that flows through all these books, through Nonviolent Communication, Think and Grow Rich, and then another one called Man's Search for Meaning. So in Think and Grow Rich, taking responsibility for your mindset and your focus, that your thoughts are under your control. This is the power, that you respond to setbacks with vision and belief. So in Think and Grow Rich, there's bit where it talks about 3 feet from gold, where a guy was essentially digging for gold, and then he quit, he gave up, and he gave his digging rights and his, piece of land or whatever it was to somebody else. They dug and found out that the guy was 3 feet away from gold when he gave up. And this is another really powerful thing. So that guy did give up. He did lose that particular battle, but he went on to be very successful, and he was very successful because of the lessons he learned. That he learned that he gave up too soon, and this is honestly, it's a really big piece to conquer. Like as a side example, I was on a exercise bike yesterday, and I know the machine stops after an hour, and I tried to cycle for the whole time without looking at the clock and trying to figure out how long I had left. And it's so tricky. It's so tricky because your brain starts to, think, oh, maybe I'll be on here forever. Maybe the timer hasn't started. Maybe I've gone past it. Maybe I should just check. You know, and they're the same. They're the same voices that you hear as you give up. So it's all preparation. It's all getting you somewhere. So man's search for meaning is ultimately the same thing. It's there's a difference between um, how you feel and what's happening to you and how you choose to show up. So ultimately, the example is being responsible in extreme conditions. So that was in a concentration camp. Really good book. But he talks about how people with meaning, people with a purpose, with a logotherapy, that's what they call it. People with a purpose survived longer, and it wasn't to do with physical, it was to do with mindset. So taking full responsibility, it can be life changing. So I wanted to just talk about a couple of practical ways that we can build your responsibility, you know, to mind the gap between stimulus and response. One way that helped me is to pause. Someone comes at you shouting, blah, 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 blah. You want to respond? Stop. Pause. Take a breath. If you can, get away, go to the toilet, do something, deep breaths, realize you're responsible. You can handle this. You are choosing how you respond. If you wouldn't have shouted before they were there, don't shout now. Don't let somebody else's behavior influence your behavior. If you want to do it, do it. But don't allow someone else to control you. So there's a couple of other examples that can help you here. So, journaling maybe, but what I'm trying to deal with is the situation that's loud. It's in your face and it's an issue now. So my tips would be get some space. Don't say anything, if you're about to blow up. And, sometimes you're going to be like, oh, or like, all right, that's interesting. Filler words. Don't blow yourself up. You can also do meditation, but like I say, these are not immediate stuff. And yeah, they're just some ways that you can deal with this. So I've shared some real life examples there. And then I just wanted to recap. So responsibility is your ability to choose your response. It's saying, I don't do anything because other people did it. Like, oh, well, why did you have the argument? Because they did this and they did that. No. I decide how I respond. It's not because of them at all. It's because maybe you could say, I decided to do this because I have certain principles and X, Y, Z. But you control. Nothing is out of your control. So I suppose I'd like to just send out a little challenge, really. If anyone's listening and these situations happen and they are able to control themselves, or maybe not, realize that you are responsible if you weren't. Realize you're responsible after. And think about how could you have handled the situation differently? What could you do next time? So, if you like this episode, guys, like, share, or subscribe. We're currently doing these streaming live on YouTube, and then we put it out on Spotify. So I'm figuring out how to get this done. A book that I'm probably going to listen to actually is called Extreme Ownership by Jocko Wilkin. Um, and yeah, I hope you've had a good day, guys. Thanks for watching. This is the Audiobook Joe podcast, and I will see you later.